All good. Thank you. Thank you for coming on and giving me some time today.
Oh, my
I know
pleasure.
you're doing a little bit of a juggle as well, so
Yeah, always.
always, always. Um, cool. So just as people come in, just a little kind of reintroduction. So over January and February, and I mean, who knows? Maybe these will keep on going, these chats, but uh, around this theme of stress,
Yeah,
resilience, burnout, I reached out to a whole host of contacts, friends, peers, practitioners, people that I've worked with to get their stance on it,
yes,
to get their experience of it, how they support people through this, and just start to give this much more like whole picture and how we can draw wisdom from all this incredible practice and experience that we have around us, particularly even with this within my own contacts. Like, how can we get a much broader lens on how we support ourselves and how we support each other? So, just a really quick introduction to me, to anyone who's just joined. Um, my name's Hannah. I'm a holistic life coach and somatic healing therapist, and I particularly specialize and support people who are moving through periods of chronic stress, recovering from trauma, and really facing recurring burnout. And I'm really delighted Livy's here. I do think she's just frozen on us. So just 1 second. Hmm. Hello. There we go.
sorry, I don't know what's happening.
That's right. Just you went really still for a moment, so I don't know how long I lost you for.
Um,
Um,
I heard everything you said, but I don't think I was on. I was sort of joined, so.
Okay, cool. So let's just dive in and just hope that doesn't
Yeah.
happen again. But I'll keep an eye on it and how still you all of a sudden get. Um,
Okay.
so, I would love to, if I could invite you to give a bit of background
Mm,
first around you, what you do, and speak to the personal experience that led you to work in the way you do now.
yeah, sure. So, hi guys, I'm Livy. Thank you so much for having me, Hannah. So nice to be here. Such an important topic, I think, in this day and age. Part of my journey was going from burnout because I realized that I wasn't living in alignment with who I was and who I came here to be. And it was through discovering human design that allowed me to kind of tap more into myself and live as myself and live in alignment with my own energy and understand better about how my energy worked, so that I could feel more, well, less burnt out because I was
Mm-hmm.
really, really burnt out, and just more like life was flowing as opposed to feeling like I wasn't fitting in, I wasn't doing the work that I knew I'd kind of, I was meant for more than what I was doing. And human design was one of the tools that helped me really come back to myself. I tried loads and loads of different things, and that was the one that sort of spoke to me the most. And so I spent years studying it, and then got into, I left a career in law as a lawyer where I was very stressed and burnt out. And I had a lot of resilience in that career anyway. I think I'm quite a determined person by nature. Like anything I put my heart into, I'll kind of just really go for. So that sustained me for a little while. But you know, when something just isn't in alignment, you end up totally burnt out. So that was a bit of my journey. And yeah, now I support other practitioners really with understanding what helps, understanding their role, what they're here to share, how they can use their energy in a way that is aligned with them so that they can create more flow and less resistance in their life.
Thank you. And for anyone who's watching who hasn't heard of human design before,
Mm.
how would you explain it to them?
Yeah, sure. I forget because I feel like everyone knows what it is nowadays, but there's been such a boom over the last few years. But yeah, of course. So human design is a system that really helps you understand how to live more as yourself, helps you understand who you are, helps you make decisions as yourself, helps you come out of the mind and into the body when it comes to decision making, helps you know how you are best designed to use your energy and interact with others, how you're here to what living life in purpose and in alignment really looks like for you. Similar to astrology in the sense that it takes your birth data, and it looks at the position of the planets at the time at which you were born, and then approximately 3 months beforehand. And you can kind of input your birth data into a software and it will pull up what's known as your human design chart. And that chart is a really detailed map of how to live more as yourself.
Amazing, thank you. Because I originally found you and your work, and I found human design through your work. You were running a workshop on a business program that I was taking part in,
Yeah.
and I was fascinated in this because it was offering this insight into how we can live more in line in like all areas of our life, down to how we eat, how we rest, how we can shift our relationship to our uniqueness as well, as opposed to trying to fit into the status quo of perhaps other people around us.
Exactly.
And so I'm a manifester, and so I've learned a lot about how I have bursts of energy and then I got to rest, and how I can put things in place to really utilize that, as opposed to pushing through and burning out, or not giving myself space to go into that flow when I need to. And totally correct me if I'm wrong, but you're a projector, right? And so,
that's right.
how does that translate into how you support yourself day to day?
Yeah, great question. So when you learn about your energy type in human design, you kind of learn about how your energy, how you're designed to kind of use your energy, the way it works, as yourself, and not necessarily. And being a projector, so projectors are one of the types, about 20% of the population, and they're kind of known as the guides. They are the seers, the people who are here to help the other types, generators and manifesting generators, for example, use their energy more efficiently. They don't have sustainable life force energy like the other types, generators and manifesting generators do. And so they have to be really discerning about like what they're putting their energy into, and each of the types has a strategy that allows them, that kind of protects their energy in a way and helps them realign to who they came here to be. And so the first sort of step to like living as yourself and using your energy as yourself is following your strategy and what we call your authority. So each of the type has this strategy to use in life when interacting with others. And your authority is your unique decision making. So human design sort of says that we're all designed to make decisions in different ways, and we all have unique ways to kind of tap into our bodies to lead, as opposed to using our mind to make decisions. And so knowing that I'm a projector, one of the types in human design that doesn't have consistent life force energy, I kind of protect my energy by following my strategy, which is waiting for recognition and invitation when it comes to sharing my guidance as a projector and the things that I see, to help people, have efficiency gains or better use their energy. That's what projectors are here to do, guide energy, essentially. And so knowing that I don't have consistent life force energy, I am discerning about who has access to my energy, which I wasn't, once before. And, that can be as simple as like in the day-to-day. Well, when it comes to business, it's really trusting that the people who see me, recognize me, want to work with me will come to me without me having to you know, I think we're often conditioned when we run a business to be like, go out there, get it, like make it happen, you know, and have all of these strategies that aren't necessarily correct for us.
Yeah.
And that can lead us to feel like a lack of alignment, a lack of what's known as our signature theme, which indicates this sort of emotional theme that indicates that you are on track, based on your design. So yeah, being very discerning about who I interact with, who has access to my energy, and actually only taking on opportunities when they come to me through riding out my what's called my emotional authority, my decision making, as to whether it's correct or not to engage with the person, and those engagements have to kind of fit certain criteria, really, for me to want to use my energy, because I know that my energy is precious. I know that I don't have sustainable energy, that kind of like a battery that runs and then I get to recharge it. So I think there's discernment is one of the key things, following my strategy, making decisions, and don't get me wrong, you know, sometimes I get it wrong and I can feel my energy leaking, and then that ends up, you know, affecting my burnout levels. And especially as a projector, having an open sacral like manifestors do, your energy kind of ebbs and flows, and learning about what those patterns sort of look like as yourself, and what it feels like for me is going to feel like different to the next projector next to me, because this is my experiment, my experience. I do have like certain I have a fair amount of energy in my design. I'm known as an energy projector. So I know when my body's kind of like using the fuel that it was designed to use versus running on empty, or, you know, not living as myself, absorbing other people's energy and then trying to use that as if it's my own to get somewhere. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it does. And when you have clients coming to you, you know, you support them with messaging, how they can best communicate in line with their human design. I've actually done one of your courses. I'm working through it at the moment and I love it. But when you have clients coming to you and you look at their chart and they're also saying, you know, I'm stressed, I'm burnt out, what kind of things are you looking for in their chart?
Yeah, so such a great question. So it comes again back to sort of like strategy and authority. Like those are the first things. When you know your energy type, there's a strategy to live by. And are you following your own strategies, and are you making decisions as yourself? Because that's the first thing that's going to indicate whether you're in alignment or not. And that strategy, like I said at the beginning, is here to protect you and your energy so that you can experience more flow. So, you know, if it's another projector, I'm looking to see where are they initiating, as opposed to waiting for recognition and invitation. Generators, same thing, really. Where are you initiating, as opposed to responding to life and seeing what comes to you and what you want to put your energy towards. Sometimes generators or sacral beings can feel a sense of burnout and depletion when they're not putting their energy into enough things that light them up. That's an actual kind of drainer for them. And so same with, say, manifestors, where are they outputting and kind of constantly trying to be on the go, trying to initiate, trying to make things happen, where there needs to kind of be this balance and ebb of flow of energy based on, you know, the urges that are rising within them, and just protecting like that. You know, when you're bringing something to life like manifestors do, it takes an incredible amount of energy, and so you can't consistently bring stuff to life in a way that's going to be sustainable. And so kind of just looking like, okay, where are you following something that isn't, you know, as yourself based on your strategy? Where are you making decisions that aren't as yourself? And how's that making you feel, you know? And starting to kind of tap into that. There's lots of different information in the chart that sort of tells you, you know, how you're designed to nourish yourself, like what environments your body is going to thrive in, you know, whether you're somebody who is designed for strategy or not, and you're trying to, you know, perhaps the things that you're doing are crushing the way that you're actually, you know, you're designed to operate, or your, you know, your creativity or things like this. So it's very nuanced, and there are lots of ways that you know, might not be feeling you know, as yourself, and the chart can kind of determine where you might be like outputting energy, or like, you know, trying to consistently force yourself on willpower that you don't necessarily have, and isn't, you know, isn't something that's sort of consistently there or sustainable in your chart.
Yeah. And so when I work with clients who are struggling with chronic stress, they're recurring burning out, or it's looming over and over again,
Mm,
there's often this sense of, we lose ourselves when we're running on that survival mode, when we're putting our energy into all the things.
yeah.
And actually, a lot of that is not giving anything back. There's no resource or energy going back on the grid again.
Mm,
And we start to kind of distance ourselves from our sense of self, if that makes sense.
oh yeah.
And when we're looking at our charts, particularly when we're in this stage of like conflicts, which often that's when we start to look for these new like
Yeah.
frameworks, don't we? Like,
Mm,
I need some
help
clarity
me.
here. Why isn't this making sense? Yeah,
Yeah.
why is this not working when I'm doing on paper all the things, or
Yeah.
I'm doing all the things that they're doing and it's not coming back to me?
Yeah.
And so it does often shine a light on us having to go against the grain of what we've been told we should do.
Mm, oh
Like
yeah.
you're talking about, particularly in the context of
Mm,
business, we need a strategy, we need this, we need that.
mm,
That's all well and good for
mm,
them. But actually, what I need is something very different. How do you
yeah.
support people in starting to almost like come into acceptance and ownership of their design?
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, whenever you kind of read for somebody, or whenever you're working with somebody, people inherently know like the truth of who they are.
Mm.
It's just a remembrance, and it's kind of like bringing it up to the surface and saying, okay, if it hasn't been working this way and we're experiencing this resistance, what's the way in which we are designed to do it that's going to make us feel, you know, better in ourselves?
Yeah.
It's going to make us have more energy, or feel more alive, or just experience like less resistance and more flow. So um you know, it's kind of it's partly a remembrance and a reminder. And often when you're telling people about themselves and how to live as themselves based on their chart, they're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense, or oh yeah, that's happened to me in the past, and I can see how, you know, these things have, like, it often makes sense based on past experiences that you've had. So it's very affirming in that way. And I think where you've got almost that evidence, it's kind of like a bit of a foundation and a bit of a springboard to carry on, kind of, or, you know, to start again living as yourself. And so often you'll have moments where they'll look back in you know, in past times, and see, okay, what was I doing that actually felt like flow, or felt like, you know, what I wasn't pushing, I wasn't burning out. What were you know, what were the circumstances around that? What was I saying yes to? What was I saying no to? Um, and you know, the chart is really only ever potential. It's not guaranteeing you anything. It's saying when you follow your strategy and your authority, there are these gifts that are kind of, you know, lying there ready to rise to the surface. And this is your own unique way to contribute some form of consciousness, evolution of consciousness in your lifetime. And how good will it feel like if you can live as yourself? And you know, we're really moving into an age now where living as yourself and living out your individuality is important. On a collective kind of level, we're going to see a shift from, you know, us having been in this time of community, of agreements, of bargains, of, you know, the way that the society has been built up is going to kind of crumble down, and we're going to see the rise of individuals and people having to know who they are and how they operate in order to live and survive, you know, as themselves. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like there's going to be a shift, you know, that we will experience, and like, yeah, I think it's about really like giving people permission to kind of remember who they are, or gently reminding them of, you know, who they are, because they always know. In my experience, mostly people know, you know, they know themselves. And this is just, you know, a redirection almost tool to come back to yourself and see, okay, where have I actually not been living as myself, and how can I just readjust and realign. And yeah, for me, it just feels like a remembrance. When I had one of my first readings done, like, I felt so seen. And I think part of that was being given sort of like validation for the things that I'd experienced in the way that I'd experienced them.
Yeah.
And that really helped, I think, heal parts of me.
Yeah. That validation that actually your experience of it not feeling right, it was because it wasn't, because it
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah,
right for you
yeah.
specifically. And I think, this comes back to a recurring conversation that I have with so many people, and I weave it into my programs because we see, particularly when we're going into those periods of burnout, when we're overwhelmed, we start to look at other people's experiences and start to go, well, it looks like they're handling it better than
Oh
me.
yeah.
Like they're getting it right, I'm getting
Mm.
it wrong. And there can be so much of kind of invalidating our experience, invalidating the honesty of the emotions that are coming up.
Yeah.
And there is so much gold in that recovery journey, shifting our relationship to stress, to burnout, to boundaries, to overworking, to over busyness, when we know what works for us uniquely. Because from there, we can build a toolkit and an awareness that is unique to us.
Yes.
And I think that's where the chart, because it is so unique,
Mm.
looking at the manifestor, manifesting generator, generator projector, and then there's, as you say, there's so much more nuance to it. We have available to us this blueprint of how we can come back, we can make decisions that are coming back home every time,
Yeah.
as opposed to looking over the fence to somebody else and going, well, they're saying it's working for them, they should do it, I should do it that way.
Yes.
um
Yes.
what has changed in, and you spoke to this already a little bit around energy management and boundaries, but from a day-to-day kind of self-care, stress management, you're a
Mm.
mama, you run a business,
Mm.
you're doing this, as you said, like
Yeah.
what's the day-to-day self-care look like for you,
Mm.
given your
Yeah.
chart?
Yeah, great question. So I think, just speaking to energy type here, being a projector, one of the most important things for people who have an open sacral is um, to have a great sleep hygiene, and that means sleeping in your own aura, in your own space, 3 meters away from, you know, from others, essentially, from sacral beings, from animals. And so part of me living as myself and protecting my energy, I sleep alone,
Mm-hmm.
which goes against what society says about, like people in couples and in relationships, romantic relationships. But I've noticed that going to bed and having a good wind down routine, as somebody who has an open sacral center, because when you have an open sacral center, you're absorbing and amplifying the energy around you. So having really great practices around routine for bed, time to wind down. There's nothing worse for open sacrals, for projectors, to go to bed absolutely exhausted. You want to give yourself the best ability to live as yourself and use your energy as yourself. And for me, a lot of that starts with going to sleep by myself and also waking up in my own energy too. Projectors somehow become like the kind of the slaves of the family. So from the moment you're looking after moment you're sort of waking up, looking after kids, running about after them, which is hard. Being a parent with an open sacral is not, you don't have that consistent life force energy. Parenting's hard as it is, even if you have a divine sacral. But it's important, that energy hygiene, that sleep hygiene, that discernment of okay, headphones in, nobody disturb me now, I'm concentrating, I'm focusing my energy here for now, and I just need to have space in my own aura, away from other people, to feel good, to come back to myself. I don't feel regulated if I've spent a lot of time around other people. I have to bring myself down. I have to remove. It's so funny because my partner's a manifesting generator, and he's the kind of person that could spend all day, literally all day, out with his friends, having a good time, pub garden, whatever it is, and for me, I'm an hour, and that's me, that's done. I'm
I'm out.
I've used, yeah, and I've kind of learned to I've learned to really like be mindful of my energy. I've learned to try and stop before I'm exhausted, if that means like closing the laptop, turning the phone off, like, you know, as different, like, as you say, you're juggling as a business owner, as a mom, like you're very time poor, and so you have to become very efficient with your energy. And it's kind of like, if I'm not doing something that I can do efficiently, I'm going to outsource it to my VA or to somebody else. I'm going to ask for help as well. That's a big one that I've kind of learned to do. Somebody who was quite hyper independent, and you know, a maiden who thought she could do everything, you know, having to be able to ask for help in sort of coming and transitioning into motherhood, and just knowing the limitations of my design as well as where I thrive. You know, even when it comes down to client work, it's like being very discerning. Is there real recognition here? Is this stuff that I do quickly feels like my genius zone? Like, you know, like it feels kind of effortless. Like if it doesn't feel like that, then I'm going to try and step away from it, because it's not good use of my energy, you know. And you know, then there's other things like, okay, how am I actually going to support my brain, my body, my mind in the way that it was designed to? How am I nourishing myself? How am I digesting life? How am I taking in information? How am I doing it in the way that I was designed to? Am I creating the optimum conditions to be able to share my unique perspective, my, you know, my outer authority, my guidance to other people? Because that's the thing that's going to make us feel good. It's going to feel, and if I feel like I'm helping others, and I'm helping others with their own energy and their, you know, doing things more efficiently, that's what success feels like to me as a projector. So yeah, different things. It kind of comes in of just knowing the impact of you and other people's designs, knowing what's going on energetically in a family dynamic, all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's so many moving parts, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I love that, you know, it's come up in the other two conversations in this series as well about, you know, healing and supporting ourselves means that we have to turn inward, but also it's really important to look up and out and around, and how we're interacting with community around us, how we're asking for help, how we feel about asking for help, how we are in receiving support. It's, you know, within that individualistic element that you spoke about earlier, you know, how things are changing, how our energies and our designs are changing as kind of a global society, that there is still this real importance in our, recognizing our interdependence with each other, our interconnectedness with each other. And actually, if we are honoring our design, there can be so much more ease within that, balance within that, flow within that. Yeah. Amazing. I'm conscious of time, so I don't want to run over, but just like a final question to anyone who's listening today that maybe is struggling with stress or burnout or things stuck in those cycles. From your human design perspective, what would you love them to know or go find out?
Well, I think the starting point really with human design always is like understanding what the strategy and authority is for your energy type, and just seeing like, if I try to experiment more with my strategy and my authority, like living as myself, then how does my energy feel? Like how let's see what happens, you know? Because I think it's very easy. That's really the starting point when it comes to human design, to look up your chart, see what your energy is, your energy type is, and then seeing what's the strategy and what's the authority for my energy type. Because that's the thing that's gonna, when you experiment and you kind of play with it and you start living more as yourself, gonna bring you into alignment. You know, and there are tons of other things to kind of look at in the chart when it comes to, you know, how you best use your energy, and how to just really nourish yourself in the way that you're designed to operate. But the starting point is always your strategy and your authority, and actually experimenting. Human design is not, you know, it doesn't require that we believe in anything. It just asks that we experiment. And in really experimenting, that's when you'll probably start to feel more as yourself. And it's not an overnight fix, you know, like this transformation, this change that happens in our bodies, in our cells, as we, you know, come back to who we are and realign with how we, you know, are designed. That's not an overnight process, but the more radical you are in committing to your experiment, the quicker that transformation will happen. And you know, Ra would always say it sounds simple, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, um, just giving yourself that kind of gift, along with all of the other tools that you've probably learned along the way to help live as yourself, you know?
Yeah, I love treating that as an experiment as well because it moves us instantly away from trying to get it perfect and right
Yes,
and allowing ourselves to be these works in progress, these
yes,
imperfect human works in progress. And I think so much of that is written into these cycles that fuel us to get stuck in overworking, in burnout, because we're trying to get some sort of perfect instead of allowing ourselves to be human
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
learning along the way.
yeah, and embracing the messiness of it all, like, you know, um, enjoying the ride, bumping into things, you know. It's really like for me in following your design that you will experience and meet, you know, more aligned opportunities, more people. A lot of what human design says is that uh, you know, how we feel is often determined by, like, you know, what's going on around us, as well as us living ourselves, but
Yeah.
just simply you know, like the kind of the quality of the people around us, as well, and understanding us, interacting with us, living as themselves as well. So I think, like, you know, who you're around is important as well, which is, I'm sure, something you speak to and teach.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think there's definitely a conversation to return to on
Yeah.
here at some point around.
Yeah.
I want to get you,
Yeah.
well, probably just for my own personal guidance, but human design and parenting
Oh
as
yeah.
well, and how